Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. This is Shule Kaya from the International Federation of Green Crescent, and it's my pleasure to moderate today's side event titled Drugs, Environmental Degradation, and Mental Health: A Vicious Cycle. This event is organized by Zərərli Vərdişlərə Qarşı İctimai Birliyi with the support of Drug Free America Foundation, Turkish Green Crescent Society, Nusrato El Enashid Association from Lebanon, and the University of Ottawa. We thank our co-sponsors and esteemed speakers for making this discussion possible. Esteemed participants, in today's world, while drug-related health and social issues are often debated, its environmental impact is mostly overlooked. Today, we will explore these challenges and discuss solutions for a more sustainable future. Before we begin, I would like to remind each speaker has 10 minutes, and we kindly ask all participants, except speakers, to keep their mics and cameras off for a smooth session. Then without further ado, let's start with our first speaker. Our first speaker is Savalon Muhtarov, President of the Zərərli Vərdişlərə Qarşı İctimai Birliyi. He will examine how drug abuse, environmental degradation, and mental health are interconnected, affecting both individuals and communities. Mr. Muhtarov, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody again. It is nice to meet everybody again together. 1 second, I will again share my screen. Okay, ekranı, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah, as you mentioned, we will today mainly focus on this two-way contacting of this environmental degradation and mental health and this vicious cycle. Generally, first we will take a point about how environmental degradation contribute to drug abuse, and then we'll discuss a little bit vice versa, how drug abuse impacting the environment, and then we will little bit pay attention on how it is interconnecting each other, and then of course how we can do it, what we can do in this case to prevent this this bad cycle. Okay. One is point this environmental degradation. If we are talking, this is the resource scaring and stress. All this pollution of this environmental, like deforestation, pollution, climate change, it is impacting our work life, and it is directly impacting to our water resource, food resource, and other resources which we're daily using. If we are getting damaged of this resource and lack of these resources, it makes the people impacting their personal life, and they become vulnerable for this to avoid this stress, and it can drive them to become vulnerable people for drug users. Another things again about urbanization as part of this, again, if we're getting that continuous environmental damage, people are feeling that they should change their position or lifestyle or location, coming out from this from nature to these big cities. And when they coming to the big cities, as we know that there is a lots of advantage, of course, in the big cities, and same time lots of disadvantages as well. And city life, it is also not easy. When they are moving to the big cities, they are lost in communication with their long-term friends, families, and coming to the city and starting to build their life from zero. And again, lots of challenge in the city and less people around them who can support for that. And again, in this condition, can drive them to the stress and result. As this result, if they are weak, they can be vulnerable for the drug users as well. From another side, we can give the example about the natural disasters. And
Mr. Savala, are you there? We cannot hear you. Mr. Savala? Hello? Just wait for a second.
all type of natural disasters, and even we create in Turkey also. This is a big impact into the life cycle of the people.
Mr.
People
Savala?
losing this family members, some of them full family for relevant, and making people vulnerable. Okay, do you hear me?
Yeah, just
hello.
Yeah,
do
now
you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yeah, now we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we lost you for
Do you hear me?
a minute. Yeah, now we can hear you clearly.
Is it
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. On which slide we left last?
6.
Hello.
Yeah, this one, 6th one. Yeah, you can continue.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. As I mentioned, that this is the natural disaster also bringing the people to the vulnerable for the drug users, and it was one example about. And now we will talk about this how drug use impact in the environmental. For drug production on all around the world, there are lots of places. The deforestation one is the and land degradation is a big impact from this drug production. Another one, chemicals are being used and disposed to the nature, which is also has a big impact to the environmental as well. And from the waste of these drugs also, which is if they are doing the production, they dispose it. Of course, this is the illegal production, and same time they do also damaging, not properly disposing all these chemicals, and also damaging the environmental. Another good research was carried out by one community. I provided link on the below. You can get some more information about that. This is the good. It is also mentioning and doing the research. They identified that all drug users, which is the personnel using this drug, not all these drugs are dispersing on the body, and this is the getting out from the body to the environment directly or through this even waste treatment system cannot completely remove it before this stuff go to the environment. And basically used drugs also somehow go to the direct to the environment, and from environment back to the natural stuff, to all the life cycle can affecting from this. This is another example for this cycle. So as we mentioned that two-way. Sorry, do you hear me? Just for checking.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, good. So all this example which we mentioned before, the environmental damage, how it is making the people to become to the drug users, and if we're talking about the more drug users, so it makes that more production of the drugs. And we mentioned already that more production drug also damaging the environment. So as you see, we are getting this bad cycle here. And in the right picture, you can see that the snowball model, the example that, and as this cycle is turning, it becomes more, and if more problems. So more production, more drug production, more environmental damage, more environmental damage, more drug use. So this is the cycle which we want to pay attention during this presentation. So what we can do, how we can do it best. So we need to somehow stop this cycle on some states whenever it is possible. So it can be, as we say, to prevent the environmental. Of course, this old world now it is more focusing this preventing this environmental damage. So recently we get on the next this meeting for COP29, where this old world coming together, putting their effort together to prevent our environment. This is the another big good action from worldwide. But we also participated as a Zərərli Vərdişlərə İctimai Birliyi together with Green Crescent Turkey. We participated COP29 also. But if we see outcome from this COP29, mainly again concentrated to carbon reduction and other type of this big impact to the environment. This point which we are talking about drug production, how it is impacting to the environment, almost not mentioning. Maybe because of it is not visible, not significant big visual big numbers for this impact. But I suggest in future such kind of meetings, or maybe COP30 or another kind of places where we can raise this issue, as we are focusing on this drug drug impact to the environment. We can raise this issue from our side to bring more focus on this area also. This is what we can do more about this environment, preventing environmental damage from this perspective. Another one from to preventing this this cycle. Another place where we can do our effort, which we are mainly focusing this to focus on this drug addiction, drug users, to prevention actually activities. So to do that, it is we are more close working with Yaşılay Turkey, and all around Azerbaijan. We are trying to reach to the pupils in a school, to the universities, and same time to the parents and teachers also, to share our knowledge, experience which we gain for now till now, to familiarize of the risk of the drug users, and making the parents and teachers how they can use our practice to control their family, to support them to be away from it. From rehabilitation side, we are at the moment not much doing, but we are also started to focus on that. But again, as you mentioned, we are mainly focusing on the prevention method, and this is the mainly we are again spending time with people, trying to individually and group as a group to inform them about the bad sides of all this drug using. This is the mainly what we want to share together with you. If any question, you can ask. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Savalan, for your insightful remarks. And now I'm checking the chat, but for now we have not question yet. You have clearly highlighted how environmental issues, social vulnerability, and substance use form a vicious cycle. So thank you again. Now our next speaker is Mr. Doruk Malhan, Deputy President of the Turkish Green Crescent Society. He will discuss the environmental damage caused by illicit drug production, including deforestation, pollution, and resource depletion. Mr. Doruk Malhan, now the floor is yours.
Hello. I would like to welcome you all. We are attending this event from Istanbul. It's a pleasure and honor for us to be attending this very important meeting. While we were being prepared to this important event. We have noticed that following the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, this issue, this topic has a major threat on all of them, which is also a kind of undermined by social, economic, and environmental aspects. Today, I'll try to highlight the environmental aspects and the threat, which is the drug use is well known for affecting the human health, well-being, and ecosystem sustainability. It leads to the environmental damage, including deforestation, soil and water depletion, contamination of clean air, water, soil, and high energy consumption. While the global environment impact is illicit of drug production is small compared to the legal industries, its effects are severe locally, which is very important. Drug production typically occurs in remote and unregulated areas, which does affect the climate and mostly in the conflict zones or the rural regions. It causes significant local harm and posing a serious threat to the nearby communities also who are affected. More people today are realizing how crucial it's important is properly include an environmental perspective in drug-related policies. In the last 10 years, it has been a great emphasis. So, considering the 1988 Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs urges that drug prevention effort should consider an environmental protection. The United Nations UNOD highlight that cultivating drug crops significantly harm the environment. For the World Drug Reports, over the past 10 years, persons did that the illicit drug production and trafficking contribute to the damage, mostly in the Latin America and Southeast, and they primarily destruct the forests. For the process, which is also a kind of illegal way of processing, there is a intense illicit drug cultivation and production activities. We should examine drug-related environmental issues through different lenses, which is two sides, which is plant-based and synthetic drugs. Like the agricultural crops, growing plant-based drugs can also harm the soil, water, and the air. The use of the fertilizers, the pesticides, and the negative impact of the environmental living organisms in the soil. So this is a threat for the areas also. Illicit cultivation often occurs in environmental sensitive areas such as national parks, forest reserves, which are home to fragile ecosystems. In addition to that, it leaves a high carbon footprint depending how the drugs are grown, processed, and transported. For instance, indoor cannabis cultivation has much more higher carbon footprint compared to outdoor cultivation, up to 100 or 150 times greater than the outdoor production. If we consider cocaine specifically, 1 kilo of cocaine generates 30 times more carbon emission comparing to 1 kilogram of cacao, or 2,600 times than the sugar cane. So in total, global cocaine production emit around 9 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. On the other hand, synthetic drugs, which are location independent, with the availability of electricity and water, which can be supplied by using solar panels and tanks. So synthetic drugs are risky for environment for the toxic waste, which often illegally dumped or discharged, contaminating water and soil. So the use of the precaution have to be increased. As production tends to be localized, dumping and discharge have to be changed. Also, the waste produced during the process of synthetic drug like amphetamine, methamphetamine, MDMA, and proportionally the compared other products. The production of 1 kilo ecstasy is estimated to produce between 6 to 10 kilogram of waste, which another synthetic drug can reach up to 20 to 40 kilo waste. So a very important another aspect is the deforestation, which is the forests are developed in 100 to 200 years. So in mostly Latin America and South Asia are the great geographies that are affected. So when you look at the numbers, Latin America hold 23% of the world forest cover. South Asia is around 6%, and they're all under threat. So when we consider a combination of Latin America and South Asia, it presents more than 30% of the world natural forests. So between 1990 and 2020, in last 30 years, Latin America, Caribbean lost 150 million hectares of forest, and reducing that forest area more than 50% has a great damage. And also considering the United Nations 2023 World Drug Report highlight the concept of narco deforestation, a phenomenon where the profits from drug traffic are directed into ventures like cattle farming, land acquisition, both legal and illegal ones, agriculture, accelerating the forest degradation. And if we have the question of what to do, it's essential effectively to deal with this complicated environmental impacts of drug production lies in the strengthening cooperation both internationally and within states. So that's one of the reasons why these 5 valuable speakers are around the table and the valued listeners. So different stakeholders varying opportunities to address and mitigate the environmental degradation caused by illicit production. States have a pivotal role in terms of the environment when they act to dismantle and destroy the laboratories and these illegal manufacturing places. The United Nations offer guidelines for the safe handling and proper disposal of chemicals during that illicit manufacturing. For example, there is an alternative project which is commonly participated, identified as vital for success and sustainability of the project. These projects aim to prevent, eliminate illicit cultivation and plants through the rural areas. And it is also important, which is run also successfully by the Turkish Green Crescent, which is the wastewater analysis project carried out as a part of the broader effect to use the drugs in different geographies. So the wastewater analysis is an emerging scientific field that enables real-time monitoring of regional and time-based patterns in illicit drug consumption. And time to time, these consumption reports also lead us to where the manufacturing is going on. So in Turkey, it was also decided that wastewater analysis study would be led by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, collaboration with Turkish Green Crescent Society, and the analysis results are shared with the AUDA. And this project is substance to prevalence determined by the wastewater analysis. In the later stages of the project, it was caused by the wastewater and the effects well measured. So when we talk about the vulnerabilities, especially when we talk about the rural areas and the local processes, more than millions of people are affected in the global south, which is the Asia and the Latin America. So these cultivations thus drive the inequality, violence, and conflict. This also affects the gender and drug dependency. So before concluding our speech, I would like to also point to the environmental degradation and these increasing vulnerabilities. Every 10 years, the situation is in a more delicate situation. So to prevent these, it's important to act together, different parties, social contribution, governments and NGOs. We bring up together several projects, and Turkish Green Crescent is taking a major role in Turkey in this area. Coming to the closing remarks, we would like to suggest and document it that the two very important SDGs, which is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is number 6, the clean water and sanitation, and number 13, the climate action. We are ready to develop several projects to prevent these hazardous effects of illegal drug manufacturing. Thank you for listening us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Doruk Malham, for your valuable insights. Your explanation of how drug economies harm ecosystems and communities was very insightful, and the use of wastewater analysis to measure drug pollution was especially interesting. So thank you again. Next, we have Emil Aliyev, and he is a PhD candidate at the University of Ottawa. He will talk about the link between climate change, housing insecurity, and mental health. Mr. Aliyev, please proceed.
Thank you, Shula Hanum, for giving me the floor. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. All right.
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. So first, thanks everyone for joining today, and I'm very glad to be part of this amazing event. I had a pleasure to meet with İctimai staff, and I was part of the panel discussion at COP29, and was very appreciated. And today I'm also very happy to be part of this event and presenting on the topic of climate change impact on mental health, housing insecurity, and homelessness. And this presentation will be based on a chapter that I wrote with my colleagues from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, which is based in Toronto, Canada. And that chapter was published on Springer Nature Journal. And on behalf of my colleagues today, I will be the one that will be presenting on this chapter. And for your information, my name is Emil Aliyev, and I'm a PhD student, PhD candidate in environmental sustainability at the University of Ottawa, as Shula mentioned. So as you know, the focus of the event is really highlighting the complex relationship between substance use, environmental degradation, and mental health. And that's about emphasizing how these issues reinforce each other, how they're interrelated, right? And how they lead to a vicious cycle. And my presentation is really relevant here as well, because it fits directly within this theme by addressing how climate change worsens mental health, especially for vulnerable populations who are facing housing insecurity and homelessness, because this is in turn increases the likelihood of substance use as a coping mechanism. So understanding these interconnected issues is really critical for developing sustainable evidence-based strategies to break this cycle, and protect both human and environmental well-being. So while the chapter focuses on Canada, many of the lessons apply globally. And my main goal here today is really show you how climate change, housing insecurity, and mental health, they're all interconnected, and why addressing these issues is really critical for both policy and practice. And here's some key concepts that I will be covering on today. One is resilient housing. As you know, resilient housing is a type of housing that can withstand extreme weather events. And that's really critical to prevent homelessness and supporting mental health. So the second key term here is support systems, and that's about trauma-informed care, making sure you have peer support and disaster education. They're all in place as it's essential for helping vulnerable populations. And Another key term here that we'll be covering is climate justice framework. I'll talk about it in a second, but for your information, this is about an approach that focuses on fairness, recognizing that marginalized groups suffer most from the climate change. And obviously marginalized voices, it's about highlighting the importance of involving at-risk communities, especially indigenous communities, in decision-making processes. And addressing climate injustice is really making sure that you acknowledge how social systems increase climate risks for vulnerable populations, and it's also about working to dismantle those inequalities. So the climate justice framework, as I mentioned, it's really highlighting how it's critical to involve marginalized groups in decision-making processes, because they are the ones that are affected most by the climate change impacts. And it's also this framework that we use in our chapter. It's because it acknowledges the rights and knowledges of different stakeholders, groups that are involved, and it especially looks at the impacts on indigenous communities. And also this framework is about examining the social structures that indicate to indicate which systems contribute to climate injustice. So climate change impacts on mental health, right? So how climate change impacts mental health? Firstly, there's here we have to look at weather events, how they impact mental health. For example, our study found out that heat waves are really linked to increased hospital admission rates for anxiety, mood disorders, and other mental health conditions. And when it comes to floods and other natural disasters, our study found out that it's really associated with trauma, which also leads to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and anxiety. So there's also increased vulnerability here. One of the presenters already mentioned about it, because when it comes to people experiencing housing insecurity or homelessness, they're also exposed to these extreme events, and they face higher risks to their mental health. And there's also forced migration. I think one of the presenters also mentioned about this too. And it's about how climate-related disasters can lead to forced migration, making people leave their homes and lands, and that also causes stress and anxiety, right? And that leads to depression as well. This is especially true for communities displaced from their homes and cultural lands. So, but mainly climate change affects substance use in two different ways, right? One is leading to new mental health issues, and the other one is increasing the pre-existing mental health issue, or even impacting more on the pre-existing issues. So extreme weather events can push people to use alcohol or drugs as coping mechanisms. For example, when it comes to alcohol, we found out that alcohol use increases vulnerability during heat waves. And if you look at heroin use, the heroin use in cold weather raises the risk of hypothermia, right? Which is, as you know, is a dangerous drop in body temperature below 35 Celsius, given the normal body temperature is 37 degrees. And there's also issues of access barriers, right? And that's about how other people have their stigma and mistrust on this marginalized people, right? Because they face the stigma and mistrust of public spaces, like cooling centers, and that prevent many unhoused individuals from using available resources during those extreme weather events. So we talk about the problems, but kind of having a positive note here, let's talk about the strategies for resilience, right? And in our chapter, we highlighted practical strategies to build resilience against the mental health impacts of climate change. And one of the strategies we suggested in this chapter was that we we need to really invest in resilient housing, and that's providing investment in housing that can withstand climate shocks. And that's really essential to prevent further displacement and homelessness. Second strategy we highlighted in the chapter was trauma-informed emergency response, right? Making sure that your emergency responses consider the mental health needs of vulnerable groups. And that's about providing both physical and psychological support during disasters. Third, disaster resilience education, right? Making sure your outreach programs are tailored for homeless communities. And that's very critical because cultural appropriateness and accessible education really helps these communities prepare for future climate events. And finally, availability and accessibility of community-based services. And that's about making sure the services are tailored on the local cultural and social historical context. So kind of concluding here and talking about the policy implications of addressing the homelessness, climate change, and mental health. We have three policy implications here. First is lived experience, right? Making sure that you include people with firsthand experience of homelessness and mental health challenges, and that's making sure your policies are more responsive and effective in that way. Secondly, removing barriers, right? And that's about addressing unique challenges faced by vulnerable groups, such as barriers related to past incarceration, chronic pain, and mental health conditions, right? We have to really recognize and address these issues along with addressing the direct impacts of climate change, right? And finally, making sure we have integrated policies, right, across sectoral responses. Sorry. And that's sorry. Sorry, and that's making sure you have developed integrated policies, right? And that across various sectors, including healthcare, emergency response, transportation, and education, right? So that's the end of my presentation. Sorry, I can drink because it's Ramadan, right?
Yeah.
Sorry
Mr. Ali, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your thoughtful contribution, Mr. Ali. Your points on how climate change makes housing insecurity worse and the mental health struggles highlight the urgent need for sustainable solutions. Thank you so much again. And if the participants have questions, kind of drop your questions to the chat. Now we can move to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Amy Ranhausen, Executive Director of the Drug-Free America Foundation. Today, she will join us a pre-recorded presentation on the environmental consequences of drug production with a focus on marijuana cultivation and methamphetamine manufacturing of U.S. example. Let's listen to her insights.
Hi, I'm Amy Ranhausen, the Executive Director of Drug-Free America Foundation and the International President of World Federation Against Drugs. I'm very happy and honored to be able to be at this event today, and I'm going to talk about addressing the environmental impacts of the global drug problem and the role of civil society. Illicit drug cultivation, particularly for substances like cocaine, marijuana, and opium, can have significant environmental impacts across the globe. Those impacts include deforestation, soil degradation, water pollution, and carbon emissions. With my time, I want to focus on information from the US on the impact of marijuana cultivation and the manufacturing of methamphetamines to soil degradation and carbon emissions. Illicit marijuana cultivation often includes the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides to maximize yields. These chemicals can leach into the soil, leading to soil degradation over time. This impacts not only the immediate area, but also nearby ecosystems. Runoff from illicit marijuana cultivation sites can carry sediment, nutrients, and chemical residues into nearby water bodies, leading to water pollution. Contaminated water can harm aquatic life and pose risk to human health if it's used for drinking or irrigation. Clearing land for illicit marijuana cultivation can leave soil vulnerable to erosion, especially on steep slopes or in areas with inadequate soil conservation measures. Soil erosion can result in the loss of topsoil, reducing soil fertility and agricultural productivity. Methamphetamine production involves the use of a variety of toxic chemicals, including solvents, acids, and heavy metals. Improper disposal of these chemicals can contaminate soil, posing risk to human health and ecosystem integrity. Illegal disposal of chemical waste by dumping it on land or burying it underground can result in localized soil contamination, with chemicals leaching into the soil and the groundwater. Some chemicals used in methamphetamine manufacturing processes, such as hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid, can acidify soil when released into the environment. Soil acidification disrupts soil pH levels, affecting nutrient availability and microbial activity. Meth labs inadvertently sterilize soil in and around their operation sites due to chemical spills or runoffs. Sterilized soil lacks the necessary microbial activity for plant growth, leading to long-term soil degradation. Meth lab fires can result in soil damage also, with the contamination from the release of toxic residues and the fire suppressant agents. Carbon emissions are for both indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivation. Indoor marijuana cultivation facilities require significant amounts of energy for lighting, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. The use of high-intensity grow lights, for example, contributes to substantial energy consumption and associated carbon emissions. The carbon footprint of indoor marijuana facilities is often larger and higher compared to outdoor or greenhouse cultivation methods due to the reliance on artificial lighting and climate control systems. This increased energy demand results in greater greenhouse gas emissions, including carbon dioxide. Electricity consumption accounts for a significant portion of the operational cost of indoor marijuana cultivation facilities. Energy-intensive equipment, such as air conditioners, dehumidifiers, further contribute to electrical demand and carbon emissions. Methamphetamine production involves chemical reactions that often require heating and other energy-intensive processes. These chemical processes can result in the release of carbon emissions, including carbon dioxide. Manufacturing facilities may use large amounts of energy for heating, ventilation, and energy-intensive equipment, such as heating elements and industrial fans, all of which contribute to carbon emissions. Producers may rely on fossil fuels, such as coals, natural gas, and diesel, to power their operations. The consumption of fossil fuels releases CO2 and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, contributing to climate change. Addressing the environmental impacts of illicit drug cultivation requires coordinated efforts from various stakeholders, including governments, law enforcement agencies, environmental organizations, and local communities. Empowering local communities through education and awareness programs can help foster a sense of environmental stewardship. Teaching sustainable land management practices, promoting conservation ethics, involving communities in decision-making processes related to land use can contribute to long-term environmental sustainability. By implementing these responses in a holistic manner, governments and organizations can work toward mitigating the environmental impacts of illicit drug cultivation while addressing the underlying social and economic factors driving this illicit activity. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on this important issue and that is at this event. If you're interested in more information or resources, please visit the drug-free website at www.dfaf.org. And here we have some one-pagers on how this issue impacts the environment and also some short video clips. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you to Ms. Ronhausen for detailed overview. Her discussion on soil degradation and carbon emissions from drug production helped us better understand its broad impact. So thank you again, Ms. Amy. Now, we will continue with our final speaker is Ms. Rima Saadetürk, Executive Director of Nusrato El Enashid Association from Lebanon. She has provided a pre-recorded representation on the rapid expansion of illicit synthetic drug production in the Middle East and its environmental consequences. Let's listen.
Good morning. This is Rima Saadetürk from Lebanon. I am the Executive Director of Nusrato El Enashid Association, and I am the representative of Asia in the International Board of World Federation Against Drugs. It is my pleasure to join your side event. Thank you so much for the public association against harmful habits for the invitation. My presentation is about the widespread and rapid growth of illicit synthetic drugs production in the Middle East. In the Middle East, synthetic drugs can be classified into several categories, including synthetic stimulants, opioids, and cannabinoids, such as captagon, and are often produced for both domestic use and export. In Lebanon and Syria, the production of synthetic drugs has become a significant issue due to geopolitical instability, weak law enforcement, and the lack of economic alternatives. These drugs are typically trafficked both within the region and internationally, contributing to a range of social, health, and environmental problems. In 2021, a significant bust in Syria led to the seizure of over 2 tons of methamphetamine, confirming a growing methamphetamine production and trafficking operation in the country despite the ongoing war. Captagon is bringing big profit to Syria's Assad regime during the war and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Between 2019 and 2023, Iraq experienced a remarkable surge in captagon seizures, with amount increasing by almost 3,380%. In 2023 alone, Iraqi authorities confiscated over 4.1 tons of captagon tablets. In October 2024, Iraq seized over 500,000 captagon pills, highlighting the country's ongoing challenges with drug trafficking. Another conflict in the Middle East played out on the border between Syria and Jordan, a war against captagon, an amphetamine-like drug that take off across the region. The drug cuts across social class and borders. It's used by taxi drivers handling late night shifts, militia fighters looking for induced courage, students studying for exams, and high-powered executives wanting to work or party long hours. Saudi Arabia has one of the highest rates of captagon abuse in the world. The drug is widely available due to its production and the trafficking through Lebanon and Syria, both of which have strong trade links with the Gulf region. Captagon is particularly abused among young men, especially those in the workforce, such as truck drivers, construction workers, and military personnel. The ongoing conflict in Yemen, which has caused immense instability, has exacerbated the drug trafficking issue and the country has become a significant transit point for synthetic drugs being trafficked from the Middle East to the Gulf region and beyond. The synthetic drug issue in the United Arab Emirates is a significant and growing concern, driven by increasing drug trafficking from neighboring countries and rising drug abuse among the local population. The synthetic drug crisis in Egypt, particularly related to Captagon and methamphetamines, has become a major public health and security challenge. Despite the government's efforts to curb trafficking and addiction, the issue continues to grow due to socioeconomic challenges, conflict in neighboring regions, and the ease of access to these drugs. As all of us know, synthetic drugs can cause public health risk. The rise in addiction and overdose deaths due to synthetic opioids and stimulants, especially the Captagon in the Middle East, demands immediate attention and action to prevent further harm and to mitigate the public health and social consequences. Drug trafficking is central to the spread of synthetic substances in the Middle East. The production and trafficking of synthetic opioids, stimulants like Captagon and methamphetamines are growing due to weak governance, corrupt practices, and the use of sophisticated smuggling techniques. These trafficked substances have led to public health crises, exacerbating addiction, overdose death, and mental health challenges in the region. The widespread production and trafficking of synthetic drugs in the Middle East not only poses a public health crisis for a human, but also harms wildlife and disrupts entire ecosystems. From the poisoning of spices through contaminated water and soil to the destruction of habitats and food chains, the environmental consequences of synthetic drugs proliferation are severe and often long-lasting. Moreover, there is an environmental damage. The widespread production and the trafficking of synthetic drugs in the Middle East causes also ecological degradation, such as deforestation, soil erosion, and water contamination, since chemical runoff into rivers and groundwater. Destruction also of natural habitats in production area. The impact on local economy also, the drug trade affects local economies in the Middle East. The paradox of drug money boosting short-term economic activity while contributing to instability. What effort to combat the problem? The multifaceted nature of the problem, it affects human health, wildlife, and the environment. Urgent need for coordinated action from regional government, international organization, and civil society, and also call to action, stronger regulation, public health initiatives, and environmental production measures. The illicit drug trade from the Middle East spreads globally and causes international implication affecting countries in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to Ms. Saadetürk for explaining this urgent issue. She has highlighted the alarming growth of illicit synthetic drug production in the Middle East and its significant impacts on public health, wildlife, and the environment. So thank you her again. And dear participants, as we conclude this session, I want to thank our speakers for their insights and our audience for their participation. And would like to ask if any of our speakers have any additional words or questions from audience.
We would like to thank you for this great event. And we have witnessed that several different speeches point to the same 3 to 4 headlines. So I believe the documentation of this video meeting can be generated, and if we can propose several projects reaching out to the related authorities, that would be a success outcome of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Dorukmalhan.
If you have time, I would like to add something, please.
Yeah, please, sure.
Well, actually, it's not a question. It's just a commentary and expression of my thankfulness for the Turkish Green Crescent Society's effort on wastewater studies. Their esteemed speaker, Doruk Malhan's stress on wastewater in Turkey and worldwide was truly impactful and notable for the environment. I think wastewater analyses are truly impressive. We can comprehend how our water is getting dirty and see that who uses what in the context of illicit drugs in time. Additionally, let me open my camera. Additionally, it's noteworthy that Turkey is sharing its data with the European Union. From my perspective as a Turkish citizen, I can also able to access wastewater analysis across Europe. We can see all data from EUDA's webpage live. It is very important scientific study, I think, and to reach them is great. There are very, very critical statistics on EUDA's webpage. So I would like to express my thanks to those who contribute to this field from Turkish Green Crescent Society for efforts. And I would like to thank to their esteemed speaker, dear Malhan, for his mention.
Thank you so much, Selim.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Savalan, Mr. Emil, do you have any additional word?
Yeah, just again, I want to mention again, thank you for everybody for participation and for effort for preparation of this event. So all information which we share here, all again emphasizing how important to us to continue on this our way to work together, collaborate together under the umbrella of Yaşılay, all worldwide, share our experience, knowledge, and again to put our effort to stop this bad cycle, which is the turning around us on the
turn right, then
Thank
keep
you
right.
for effort.
Thank you again.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for inviting me to be part of this amazing event. And it was really great to hear all the insights from the other speakers. And yes, let's continue working on this and collaborate together, because that's what we also highlighted in our presentations too.
Thank you again. Thank you again, all the participants. And today's discussion has shown that tackling drug-related environmental harm requires collaboration across sectors, combining public health, sustainability, and social justice efforts. So the solutions we have discussed, from international cooperation to evidence-based policies, are key to reducing these harms and protecting both people and planet. So thank you all again, and we hope to continue this important discussion beyond today's session. So have a lovely day. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.